What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ink Drink Think, episode 16. In honor of the end of 2020, the worst year in human history, we thought we'd cover a light, fun topic on this first episode of 2021. And of course, by the title, you know we're talking about Watchmen. Just a cheery story. Hopefully, we're all going to leave this podcast feeling really optimistic about humanity. But of course, guys, as always, I'm Michael Pickard, and I am joined by my wonderfully talented co-hosts and friends, Johnny Wise. Johnny, you are up.
Hey, I'm Johnny. So for the Watchmen episode, as I was just saying to the guys, we're doing one of those fun penciling and then swapping episodes, and
Swinger episodes,
yeah, one of those good ones. It was right after Christmas when I started working on mine, and everything felt too bleak to do a really bleak Watchmen-y picture. So
perfect.
I mean, I think in any other time I'm up for like bleak and horrible, but this one little window of time, you guys caught me when I was feeling sentimental. So the characters I was set to draw were Silk Spectre and Dr. Manhattan, and I managed to pinpoint the one moment in the whole of the graphic novel that is kind of nice and sweet. And that's when they're just on that rooftop and they start getting it on. It's not so good for his wife at the time, actually, thinking about it. What's her name? Jane? Yeah.
Janie? Jane? Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess nothing can be...
Dr. Manhattan's.
Yeah, nothing can be fully good in Watchmen. But for those two, pretty nice.
She's very upset by it, yeah.
Yeah, it ruins their whole thing, as it would. But I just drew them sitting on a rooftop, just having a little chit-chat for Nate to ink. So that's what I'm doing. And today I'm going to be inking Mike's pencils. So I got to draw the nice sentimental thing. And now that I'm over that depressing hump after Christmas, I get to ink something dark and gritty. So I'm inking Mike's wonderful pencils of Watchmen and Ozymandias. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I never know.
You mean Rorschach and Ozymandias?
Yeah. Oh, what did I say?
Watchmen.
The title
Watchmen.
Character, Watchman.
Yeah, you sound like a parent who saw the commercials for the movie and were like, "Oh, is that the Watchman?"
Yeah, that's the Watchman.
I think he wears watches.
That's the Watchman. Yeah, I'm drawing the Watchman. So these are the pencils, and they're very good. So I already got a little bit greedy. And while we've been talking before, I already started inking a little bit.
Oh, you son of a
bitch. and you're doing it digitally, huh?
I am, yeah. So I actually got a little bit far, so I needed to slow way the fuck down. But yeah, it's looking good. The pencils are very, very fun to ink.
Is this the first time you've inked Michael?
It is, yeah. And
really?
it's like I'm trying to find like a mix between my obsessively clean look and then Mike's fun, erratic, scratchy look.
It's gonna be really interesting.
It's good.
How it turns out.
Fun trying to find that happy medium.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see this one because, like you just said, your art is traditionally a lot cleaner than mine, or your more recent work, I should say, is very clean and crisp. And you used the perfect word for my inking, which is erratic, unplanned, nervous.
Fun erratic, yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm so excited to see when you eventually turn around the camera how far you got and how beautiful it's turning out. So that's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah.
But of course, guys, we're also joined by fellow co-host and friend Nate Wells.
Hey guys, Nate Wells. Super excited to be back with these guys doing another show, starting 2021, which is shaping up to be just another wonderful year. Tonight I am enjoying a Brotherwell Hidden Herd. Get that out of the way. A little plug from Brotherwell. They do sponsor the show. They don't know that we're doing this. But I'm drinking their beer, and it's very good. But in preparation for tonight's episode, I penciled a little piece of the comedian and Dr. Manhattan just destroying Vietnam or something. Actually, there's no Vietnamese imagery in the drawing. There's a lot of explosions and stuff, but it's from the sort of war Vietnam flashbacks from the book. And had a lot of fun doing it. I was really happy with the pencils, and I could not be more excited to see what Todd is going to do with it. But tonight, I've gotten Johnny's pencils that he just described of the sweet, sweet moment of little infidelity between Dr. Manhattan and the Silk Spectre 2. And I'm super duper excited to get into it. The pencils are great, and I can't wait to ruin that clean look that Johnny was talking about with really, really brushy textural junk. So
I hoped you would, man. You go mad.
and I will.
Yeah.
And you're not doing it digitally, or are you?
No, I'm breaking out the brushes and ink like
You are.
usual, and I'm just gonna make a huge mess on what is otherwise a really good drawing.
Oddly enough, it worked out that 2 of the pieces for tonight, because there are collaborations, not just between the 2 of the hosts on the show tonight, but also the characters are collaborating in each of the pieces, that my pencils and Todd's pencils are almost pre-Watchmen, like pre the events of the book, yet Nate and Johnny's pencils are mid-book, just based off the events. Like Rorschach and Ozymandias and my pencils never would have teamed up by the time of the events of the book. There's no chance of them being anywhere other than the like few scenes they are in the room together. They would never team up like that.
Right.
So it's kind of a cool thing that it worked out that way. The collaborations tonight. But of course, guys, we're also joined by Dr. Manhattan himself, the Time Master, Todd Blackwood.
Watchman.
I'm more
Watchmen.
emotional. Dr. Manhattan.
So I am working over Nate's great pencils here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Now we can see it.
There's the comedian, and then there's you haven't seen it, and Dr. Manhattan behind him, and some beautiful penciling.
Oh,
I was going to
Yeah,
ask
I haven't
Nate,
seen it that finished yet.
Is that digital or is that not digital?
Yeah, the pencils for this one are digital. I've gotten
they are.
really into digital penciling
Yeah.
the last probably like month, 6 weeks, something like that. I've actually digitally penciled the last bunch of pieces for the show. I've been really enjoying it. It's so easy to move things. I'm being
I'd be
corrupted.
really curious to hear the what kind of pencils you used, because they're that's amazing. It's got a very Steve Rude. Speaking of Steve Rude, it's got a Steve Rude, Alex Ross quality to the line work.
Oh, thank you.
So I was like, man, how do you do that? Because it's interesting because it looks like it's from an angle. In other words, like a chisel point. So I would be curious.
Anyways,
it's a
when I
great quality.
pencil traditionally, I tend to use a pretty fine line a lot of the time, but digitally I feel maybe a little more comfortable because I can't always just double tap to undo, using like a way broader pencil. But I think it's just like the HB pencil or something in Fresco. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see what you got.
Michael, do you want me to explain what I did, or do you want to do it? It doesn't matter to me.
If you want to move around to the final piece that's going to be inked tonight, I am clearly inking Todd's pencils of Night Owl and Rorschach. Possibly my 2 favorite characters from the book. I'm a big fan of Dr. Manhattan, but I do love all of the characters, all of the terrible people in this book. So I was really excited when I got these pencils. It's a lot more animated than what I normally draw, and that was like the thing. Like when I was going over some of the lines in actual pencil, just to define them on the page a little bit for me. I was thinking about how your movement in your line work and your anatomy is just so drastically different from what I do, because I almost like.
I bet.
Yeah, well, my work is a lot more like blocky, and even in my penciling, it's a little more like stoic, a little more statuesque. But like this is so free flowing. It's gonna be a real learning experience for me tonight. So
got some decisions to make, I would say.
Yeah. To delay no further, I'll show you. Actually, I'll flip my camera around. I actually penciled a little bit into the piece to kind of adjust places as needed, but also to define where I was going to put the shadows.
Right.
So here's the first print I had done, and I had penciled a little bit just to define some of the shapes and like where the shadows were going to go in.
Right.
But so here clearly is what Todd had penciled. I did actually add some buildings over here in the background, but
cool.
Other than that element, this is entirely Todd's inner machinations coming to life.
Super good.
Yeah,
Very nice.
The anatomy on Night Owl is what I'm most excited for. There's just this really fun perspective on it, but also the legs, like it's so disco. It's so full, like it's so like ready to like hit the dance scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Yeah, it's gonna be so drastically different than anything I've ever done, and I'm a little bit hesitant just from the standpoint of kind of like I was just saying, like there is this quality of like fun, like pop to your pencils here, and my inking is very much like, here's a bunch of hatching. So hopefully I'm still able to pull through some of the fun that you put in the pencils through in the inking.
Yeah.
I was
Adding
also
the
going to
buildings
say,
in the background is a good idea. What's that, Johnny?
I was just going to say, I also really like looking at it, that it's so like pre-Watchmen, because Night Owl's like got this big grin on that I really like.
Yeah.
Night Owl just gritted away.
He's not the fat guy that comes in later.
Yeah,
You know,
he's like
not-
all
he's not
muscly,
the
and he's like
fat
smiling
tiger.
away. And it's
I
just,
like
I'm looking at
Fat
it like,
Dan.
Them back
Yeah.
when they were duo and into it, you know.
yeah, like
like-
I'm watching it like it's gonna
More
turn
of a
south for you, man.
Yeah.
It's not
I
gonna
really
feel
like
good.
Fat Depressed Dan though.
It's all down here
Yeah.
from here. Dan.
Yeah.
He's just such a guy, you know.
Reliving
From
the
my
glory
perspective,
days.
he wasn't going to be jumping out and fighting crime. It would have had to be an image of like him being like, Rorschach, do we have to? And I was like, oh, let's...
Well, see, I think it works perfectly
Yeah, I mean-
with Rorschach and Dan jumping out of Archie like this, because it is kind of like the descent for both of these characters. It's before they both fall into the desperate places they find themselves at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rorschach
Actually,
stealing his beans.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, what's up in the corner? You got the two big images. What's the smaller one? What is
Oh,
that?
this appeared. This is just scratch paper for
Yeah.
myself. I tend to
okay.
use this before I put my pen
That's
to the
so
paper
funny.
every time I dip, but I also doodle on it.
I thought it was some sort of like little layout you had done or something.
No, actually, it's just a little piece of
Obviously, I
scratch
can't
paper.
see.
There's like a
yeah.
little Superman sketches from our Superman episode on this one. My Zorro thumbnail
Oh,
is
yeah.
right up here in the corner on the backside. Little Kylo Ren.
You really get the use out of those then.
Oh
Yeah, you
yeah.
do.
Well, whenever I trim paper, if it's like a weird size that's like a dimension I don't use, I just end up using it for scratch paper. This one I
You
just
can always find some way to use it. Yeah.
exactly yeah. So I've just had this one for a little whiles now. So it's almost at the end of its run. I'll probably have to get a new scratch paper in the next couple pieces I do. But
Yeah.
we were talking a little bit about Zack Snyder's adaptation of Watchmen before we started recording. And I just want to make it very clear up front that I think that film, as much as I think it does if you watch it separate from the book, hold up as it's a film, right? People watched it, people enjoyed it, people didn't enjoy it. Doesn't really matter. But as an adaptation, I think it has ruined the reputation of the book because Zack Snyder on paper and in interviews has said various quotes referring to how he wasn't interested in comic books until he was shown Watchmen, where he was like, oh yeah, it finally had the sex and the violence I was looking for in a book. But that's literally the antithesis of what the book is trying to convey. It's not cool and sexy. It's sad and depressing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
think
mean, they're
that's about it
supposed to
all.
be. I mean, the part of why I like the book so much is that it has the aesthetic I quite like in superheroes, isn't it? They're fucking silly before anything else. Like when they're like, then they're not cool. They're never cool. Like Night Owl's costume is fucking silly. All of their costumes are silly, and they're all like so flawed. They're not cool.
Sure. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about the flaws in superheroes or people in charge, whatever you want to call it, people in authority.
I quite like I don't mind the film.
Yeah.
It has a lot of things wrong with it, which I think it's tapped into there, and that Zack Snyder does that a lot, where everything he does is just like so centered on like this is cool.
Yeah.
And so like first and
Yes, it
foremost,
is.
they're all like weirdly supernaturally good at fighting. What's that about? Why are they all like flinging people across the room?
Because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
That is
trying to
why.
hide the fact that he didn't understand the story.
Yeah, although like violence is used so I think
God bless him.
effectively in the book, it does feel unreal in the movie, and it is very glorified. Even though in the book, like I think about the alley fight with Silk Spectre and Night Owl, Lori and Dan, I should say. There's like in trench coats or whatever. And they're like fighting the gang members, and they're just like breaking their bones, and it's brutal, and teeth are flying, and you really see that. And of course, this is before really in a lot of superhero comics, mainstream superhero comics, you didn't really see that. And if Batman's beating up thugs in an alley, you know, it is just kind of like this cool, like fuck yeah, get him, Batman. Whereas like they really messed those like teenagers up.
They fuck them up, yeah.
Yeah.
And they do that in the movie, but it looks really, really badass.
Too badass. It's the same with the bit at the end where Night Owl and Rorschach, sorry, should I say Night Owl and the Watchman are fighting Ozymandias. And in the book it's so good because it's like it like plays it out beat for beat, and like was it Rorschach like tries to hit him with a plate or something, and it just shows like everything they try is just very like point of fact, just beaten down by Ozymandias in a very like matter of fact way. And then in the movie, he's like flinging them across the room.
Right.
I don't know. That was something I didn't like.
No, I think you're onto a very direct issue with the film adaptation. Is that there's a kung fu element to all of the action sequences. It's very heightened, whereas everything in the book is very down to earth. To the point where like towards the beginning, I think it's in the first issue when Rorschach is going from bar to bar and he just breaks that guy's fingers. It's not a very like it's not a splash page event. It's a panel or two. And it's just like in your face.
Yeah, and you just feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he just takes his fingers and breaks them. It's not like a big action movie beat or anything. It's just one panel he's holding his fingers, the next panel he's just bending them back.
I think even Alan Moore later on said there was a lot of violence he did in mainstream comics that he kind of regretted later. Like the whole thing with Batgirl and the Killing Joke. He was like, yeah, I don't really think that was as necessary as it seemed at the time.
Yeah, the violence in Watchmen is really effective, and it is for a superhero comic that has all the colors, the wonderful colors. Shoot, who was the colorist? John Higgins. Yeah, wonderful colors. And it just looks like sort of the quintessential superhero comic if you just like flip through it. But you do feel every bit of violence in it. Even the extreme stuff or just the small stuff. That guy's fingers getting broken. You know, Rorschach just kind of like breaks them. And I think if we're talking about the movie, and I do enjoy the Zack Snyder movie. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I think it's a good movie. I really don't.
You know you're a Snyder shill.
Every time I watch it, I kind of feel something different about it. But I do like watching it because it is just a gorgeous movie. Because Zack Snyder makes, in my opinion, good-looking movies, even if there is not a whole lot of substance there. But I think, like, you know, what if I'm trying to think of like another director that could have tackled Watchmen, and at least from the perspective of violence, you could have felt it a little more.
I think David Fincher would have been the perfect director choice for an adaptation, but
that would have been good.
He might have been
probably attached at some point.
Yeah, he might have been a good example because he also just makes gorgeous films. They just look really polished and good. But yeah, like that's the thing that for me is really, really missing from the movie is that the violence is so overdone. The fights are so just cool. And that's not something that at least I really get from the book. You know, like I was revisiting the Safdie brothers. What's the movie called? Good Time the other day.
Oh yeah.
And it's just really down to earth. And I don't think the Safdie brothers would have made like an incredible Watchmen movie. But, you know, if I think like they could have directed like a fight scene, I think you would have really, really felt it. Like one of these more like indie directors or team of directors could have made like just made the violence in it just feel really tactile. Like I want to not go like, oh damn, that was cool. I want to like cringe that you know, someone got their arm broken in an alley fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Nicholas Winding Refn would be good for the fights as well.
Oh my god, yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's
He probably would have gone a bit overboard with everything.
Yeah. It's definitely glorified in a way that Zack Snyder doesn't do. It's like it's really celebrating just the bloody. Yeah, he's I like him a lot, but wow.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
I think though that's part of the theme of the book that maybe Zack Snyder didn't understand is that essentially in a lot of ways what superheroes is getting your way by violence, and that's fundamentally, you know, like Ozymandias kicking Rorschach and Night Owl's ass. Does that mean that he's right? No, he just means that he's stronger than those two, so he gets his way.
Yeah.
And you know, you guys know about the origin of Watchmen and what it was when it started?
With the Charlton characters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you guys know the doppelgangers of who the characters actually are?
Rorschach's the Question, right?
Right. He's the Question, and to an extent more so Mr. A, but they're all basically the same character. And the comedian is Peacemaker, which is, you know, that's why it's funny. It's because it's like he's a guy with a gun. It's called the Peacemaker, and Dr. Manhattan is Captain Atom.
Yeah.
Who's yeah, it's really interesting, and they couldn't use those characters, so they had to change all the characters. So it wasn't intended as a sort of creator-owned thing at the beginning.
Yeah, well,
of
wasn't
course they always
so Alan Moore was
describe it
meant
as
to
a
do a
thing. What's that?
Yeah, because wasn't Alan Moore meant to do like like he was meant to just start working on like they gave him loads of characters like the Question and Blue Beetle, and then he wrote like this long story where they all die, and they were just like, okay, well you can't do this because they all fucking die at the end.
Something like that. I think his maybe, I don't remember, but I think in his mind he thought, well, nobody's going to care what I do to these characters, and apparently DC did care after all, and he was surprised.
Yeah,
because they were actually he and Dave Gibbons were supposed to do Martian Manhunter, and that fell apart. And then he had another book that was really interesting called Twilight. You guys heard of Twilight?
I have, because I've been getting sample scripts recently to do interiors, and it's Twilight of the superheroes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet,
there was
but
an actual script out there.
there's apparently. I haven't looked at it yet because I barely knew what it was, and I've been looking for actual scripts to do. But I might give it a look now that you're mentioning it. It was like it was like an famously unfinished like thing, right?
Yeah, Alan Moore had a couple like famously unfinished projects, but that was I would almost say that Crisis on Infinite Earths was like a replacement for Twilight, because I feel like Twilight was kind of how that was originally conceived, was like a big everything explodes and then we rebuild from the ground up moment for DC. And I think that Hellblazer, John Constantine, was originally conceived as the character that was going to guide everyone through Twilight. And so that's why there was all this mystery around him, is that in Swamp Thing is he was going to become this major character walking through the DC universe in the future in Twilight. And then that never happened. So they kind of had to figure out what to do with the character otherwise. But yeah, Twilight's really interesting. But I digress. Anyways, what were we talking about?
Watchmen in some way.
I got off subject somehow.
No, we were talking about the inspirations and the development behind Watchmen, but something that I think is rarely touched upon, which I think we can shed some light on right now. And by shed some light, I mean the 3 people who watch our videos is gonna fast forward through this because they know this part already. But I think it's so crazy how gypped Gibbons and Moore were in terms of the ownership of Watchmen.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because for anybody who doesn't know, the agreement they signed entailed that they were going to receive full rights to the book and the characters when DC finished printing it.
Right.
But the loophole DC used
Right.
was that they never stopped printing it because it was such a cash cow that it's been in print since. And even though theoretically if they ever stopped printing it, Moore and Gibbons would regain the rights to the book, it'll never happen.
And I think to this day, it's still one of the top selling comics. Like, I think it consistently still is like at the top of a bestseller list,
Yeah, no question.
which is pretty
It's-
interesting.
It's often still listed as one of the best books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is deserved, admittedly. Like, I really don't know if there are many other comics that hold a candle to it.
No, I don't think there are.
It's very few. Like, and not just from the superhero genre perspective. Like, Watchmen is just a tour de force of writing and illustration, and just visual storytelling, whether it's through drawn images or photographs. It's unparalleled in its composition. It's just incredible.
Well, yeah.
Well, that actually brings me to a little question I had. Would you all recommend Watchmen to people you know who don't read comics?
No.
Because I've heard mixed answers. I've heard people say no because you need to know. First of all, it's long as fuck, and secondly, you need to like understand the tropes.
I don't know about that.
I have before. I honestly
I feel like I would.
most people have read it, but I've definitely said like, hey, it's just like a really good book, and you should read it.
Yeah, I haven't, but I feel like I would. It would be the
people
one
who
I
are
would
just
recommend.
into literature, like read it.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting because for me, as much as Watchmen is very clearly accessible, like it's one of the most legible books in terms of just how it uses the 9-panel grid, so it's easy to follow for a new reader. I don't even think it's necessarily a trope thing of like, oh, well, you have to be familiar with the question to get the themes behind Rorschach or anything like that.
Yeah,
I
mean, definitely not the characters themselves that they were meant to be based on.
Yeah,
but just the tropes of like, I don't know, like the stuff I've heard from people talking about recommending it. They've been like, at the end when Ozymandias does the whole "I did it" however many minutes ago. But even that, I think like you understand the idea of everyone understands the idea of a supervillain montage, like not montage, like whatever.
Yeah, their monologue.
Whatever the word is, monologue. Yeah, I'm not thinking of words right now.
We'll see. The point I was going to say was I almost would not recommend it to someone who's new to comics, only because I think you do have to kind of appreciate Watchmen for what it is, and I think it being, like, for me, admittedly, it was one of the first graphic novels I ever read, and it wasn't until years later that I fully grasped like the true like craft of the book. I almost think you need to have almost like you should go through Comics 101 before you read Watchmen. Like you should read some like lesser known titles, and I don't mean like lesser known, like I mean I don't know, like Court of Owls or something. A lot more mainstream, like easily accessible books before Watchmen. And I say that only
it depends
because
on who you're recommending it to.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of
mean,
people, like if
if
you're
it-
talking about recommending it to a non-comics person, you're like, if you're gonna read one comic, this is a good one.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been in the mindset of. I haven't actually really recommended it to anyone, but I've been like, if I was going to recommend anything, it would be this because it's just inarguably good.
I think if anybody reads it, that's awesome because on the surface, I think the book comes across as really boring. as opposed to like The Dark Knight Returns is really exciting. Like I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Watchmen takes a certain amount of effort. So in that
Yeah,
sense,
Watchmen
like,
is boring. Yeah.
you know,
Mm.
when I say I wouldn't recommend it as somebody who wants to get into graphic novels, the only reason I say that is because I could see somebody picking it up and getting 10 pages into it and being like, well, this is too much for me, and giving up. So like for me, it might be the book where I'm like, well, if you like Spider-Man, then maybe you'll like Frank Miller's Batman, then maybe you'll like you know, sort of warm you up for Watchmen, so that okay, this, you know, there's a lot to unpack here, and it takes involvement to read it, and you can learn a lot by multiple readings, and some people are into that and
Yeah,
other people aren't. So but you know, if anybody is like, I really want to read Watchmen, I would be like, you should really read Watchmen. That's awesome. You should read it 4 5 times or more. You should own it and just keep rereading it, because it's great to look at and there's a lot to learn from it, um, and it's so dense. You know, there's so much going on.
yeah. Todd, you've hit on exactly what I was going to answer to that question, basically. So when I read it, I was in like,
Uh,
I was like maybe 16, maybe 15. So
oh wow.
I got a lot of aspects of it. I wasn't way too young, but I also
Yeah.
was just looking to read some cool comics, and I thought it was cool.
Sure.
So I was still of that
Yeah.
mindset, and it was post the film, I think. Although I hadn't watched the film really. I'd watched like some bits of the film and then kind of been like, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah.
But it is just the rereading it, and I tend to read it like without really meaning to or making myself do it. I tend to reread it like once a year or so, and every year there's like a new element that I pick up on. And for sure, when I first started reading it, I was just not really old enough to pick up on a lot of the core elements, and I was just kind of trying to read something cool. And it is cool in a lot of ways, but also just
it's super cool.
Yeah, but just, I mean, I did pick up on bits as I was reading it that I was like, oh, this might be. I got Watchmen, and maybe I think I got Watchmen and Year One at the same time.
Oh,
And yeah, they were both very good. It's very formative,
wow.
but very different.
So did you? Like, did you plow through Year One and then struggle through Watchmen, or did you? How did you feel about those two in the same reading space?
So I
those are
started
vastly
reading
different
Year
books.
One because Year One was the one I was excited for. I had read a couple of
Yeah.
issues of Year One when I was younger. It like.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're the same in America, but in the UK, a lot of the time we get like, I'm pretty sure it's not the same in America. In the UK, like a lot of comics come like later and collected. So there was like Wolverine and Deadpool was something I read a lot, where they just collect their stories a lot later. And I read Batman Year One in like a Batman comic that collected it like many years later in like the mid 2000s, maybe the early 2000s. It wasn't the first, obviously, that it came to the UK, but that was the first exposure I had to it. And so I was excited to get to that one because I was like, oh, this is that thing I read like a couple of issues of, and it was like amazing. And so I put Watchmen aside for a little while I got into that. And then I kind of realized I was breezing right through Batman, and that was the one I was excited for. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put this aside actually, and I'm going to read Watchmen. And then I pretty much didn't pick up Batman again for a little while.
Because you were busy reading Watchmen, in other words?
Yeah, it got me good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, like I say, it wasn't, the themes didn't like, the greater themes I didn't grasp them immediately, but Watchmen like got its hooks in me.
Yeah. And that's what's great about it, is that once it does get its hooks in you, they're really deep hooks. But you got to invest some time and attention into it in order for that to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Because for me, both Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns were two books I heard about, and I circled them, and I would go to the comic book store and I'd flip through them, and I was like, I don't get it. What is the big deal about these? especially Dark Knight. I was like, oh my god, this looks fucking terrible. I thought the drawing was awful looking, and but
It is an acquired taste.
Well, yeah, I mean, I started picking up individual issues of Swamp Thing for really cheap, and also Frank Miller's Daredevil, I think, and you know, started warming myself up so that by the time I did finally break down and buy Dark Knight and Watchmen, I mean, I was like an out of control train. I was like, oh my god, I got to read this now, and then it was like, you know, just that weekend I took to read either one of those was I mean unforgettable, and there was nothing else in my vision. I remember it was just totally focused on this thing I was reading, because by that point I was so primed and ready for it. Yeah, whereas year one, like Watchmen, I understand somebody kind of bouncing off of it the first time and going, I don't understand, this is too much for me too soon. Whereas like say year one, it's like, how could anybody not love that? That's so accessible and just immediately interesting and intriguing and so well drawn and so
yeah,
well
I mean that's why that was the
written,
one I was
just
looking
everything
forward
about
to.
it so wonderful. Yeah, I bet, man. There are times when I wish I could erase my memory so I could reread that stuff, just because it was so great. There's nothing like that original reading of something that never, you know, you reread things, but that first time is so exhilarating. Same with movies.
Which, as
like,
you mentioned, Watchmen is kind of the opposite.
Time. Yeah, I mean, it's like the difference between an oven and a light switch, you know.
Yeah.
Batman Year One to me is a light switch where it's like clunk and suddenly it's on, whereas the Watchmen takes a while to warm up, but you turn around and realize you're cooked.
Yeah, and every time you reread Watchmen, no matter how many times you've read it, I feel like there's stuff where you're like, how was I not paying attention to that before? How did I not notice that before?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes against everything. Like Dark Knight, I keep bringing these two up, but like Dark Knight is sort of like a Batman who comes out of retirement to fight his greatest foes, whereas Watchmen, it's like, who are these characters and who are they fighting? And in many ways, I feel like that's what you have to figure out. It's like, what is going on here? Are they actually fighting the people? Who is the villain? Maybe that's one of the themes of the book, is who is the villain? Is it Ozymandias? Is it Rorschach? Is it...
Well, that's the other issue with the film.
It sets up.
That's the other issue with the film, I think, is that in the film, Ozymandias is so villainous right from the beginning. He has like shots where he'll talk to Rorschach or whatever, and then Rorschach goes away and he just like turns to the camera and is like, I'm a villain. It's like really, really obvious right from the get-go. Whereas it's not really the case in the book.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Again, Zack Snyder is probably great for certain things, but I Watchmen should have been a 12-episode miniseries on HBO right from the beginning. That's, I think, what it should have been.
Yeah, I agree, I think. Well, what do you guys think of, I'm sure Mike has this in his questions, but have you guys seen the series?
Yes.
I did not finish it, but I had started it with an HBO trial.
Right, yeah.
I thought it was excellent from what I saw.
Yeah, I was nervous about it because I was like, when they just said like, oh, we're doing a Watchmen like series and it's going to be 8 episodes or whatever, and I was like, ooh, I know they won't, but what if they just did each chapter of the book and did a 12 episode miniseries?
That's what I thought too.
Wouldn't that be so cool? And then they said, oh, it's actually gonna be a sequel, and it's in like modern day or whatever, and it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was like, what the fuck are they doing? But I watched the series and I really, really liked it.
Yeah, same.
And it's
exactly
again,
the same as
Warner
you.
Brothers and DC cashing in on this property, but it was good enough, I think, to merit existing. I really, really enjoyed it because it expands on that world in a way that I think is really rich. Not being in New York, which would have been the obvious thing, and going to a completely different setting, and all the the racial stuff and all the history of our world, our real world, and the fictional world melding together once again. Yeah, it was really good, I thought.
I really liked. I don't know why I was reminded of it because we were talking about Rorschach. I really liked the when you find out how what's his name, the mirror guy,
Mirror guy,
Looking Glass. Yeah.
Looking Glass, because she just calls him mirror guy.
Yeah.
When you find out his origin, which I don't want to spoil for Mike.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good.
Fucking cool and so fucked up.
Good. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would recommend it.
It's really good. I would as well.
I'm one of those people that's opposed to anybody doing Watchmen just simply on principle. But you know, with that said, I haven't seen it, so I can't really.
It's
you know.
It was much more sincere than what they tried to do with before Watchmen in the comics.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
was a much better effort. It was mostly just taking a world and building on it with new characters and a new story, rather than saying, hey, remember these characters, watch them do some more stuff.
Yeah. But then another thing that I could say is really high praise for it is that I actually then really liked rereading Watchmen, taking it as canon.
Yeah, same.
Like the what's the stuff with the why can't I remember? Hooded Justice.
Yeah, oh my god.
The stuff they do with him, I was like, that's fucking genius.
Well, yeah, Hooded Justice is sort of like the catalyst of like the whole story. And oh my god. Took a character that's really just a background character from the book. Cool character, very important character in certain chapters, but yeah, make him like a real thing and give him a history that is just powerful. And yeah, I'm so sad that they're not going to make more of that show.
Yeah, same.
Because it was really well
were
received.
They talking about it?
Yeah, it was well received, critically acclaimed, but I don't think anybody watched it.
Yeah, I certainly didn't watch it until way after.
Well, also,
yeah, I watched it as it was coming on, and I was so excited I think like Sunday, whenever there would be a new episode, I'd be like, "Ooh, new Watchmen!" I made my my girlfriend at the time watch it with me, because I was just watching it on my own, and she sat in on the first episode, and she's like, "What are you watching?" And she sat down and got invested, so I made her read the book, and we watched the Snyder movie, and I was like, "You got to understand the world if you're gonna watch the show with me," and so she did, and I don't think she appreciated all the homework, but we really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I always did the same thing to Alyssa, because she was like, "Oh, should we watch that?" And I was like, "You'd have to read the entire graphic novel first, because we'd have to pause it because I'd seen the first like 3 episodes at that point. I was like, we'd have to pause it every 5 minutes to be like, oh, well, that's from the book, that's that, and then next 5 minutes, oh, well, that's from the book, so that like." I think it's a really cool concept that they made that a sequel and not an adaptation.
Yeah.
And
it's actually done well.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. I do think you need to have read the book to an extent. I don't know. I think it explains a lot.
Yeah, it's accessible, but it helps if you've read the book.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes it richer and better.
Yeah.
Well, it's made for fans of the property as well as people coming in cold.
Yeah, because I was watching it like such a nerd. I think anyone could watch it and enjoy it and understand, but there's a lot in there as well.
It built on the world, but it touches on completely different themes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it doesn't deal with the same philosophical, ideological worldview issues that you get in the original. It's just that world and dealing with another history, another people in that world, another source of conflict, using some of the same characters, but tackling different social issues maybe, or different world issues in the same way that the original Watchmen might have done. Nobody could do it like Alan Moore could do it, but Lindelof and company did. I think.
Yeah, that that hits on, that was why I think a big part of like the completely changing like the kind of themes and things, but still keeping it in that world was something that made me, when I finished it, I was like, oh wow, this like does belong, I think, in
Yeah,
like
I think
Watchmen. It's
Between the novel's ending and the film adaptation's ending, which do you prefer as a conclusion to that story? Mainly, what happens to New York City? Which do you prefer as an ending?
the book.
yeah, the book.
Wait, what now?
So in the film, Todd,
You mean the difference between the book and the movie?
yeah, in
Right.
terms of the plot to unite the world, which
Right.
do you prefer conceptually?
So the ending of the movie is different than the book. Is that what you're saying?
It is
Yeah,
drastic.
Yeah,
do you
it's
remember
very
it?
How
different.
Have you
how
seen
does
it?
the movie end again? I can't remember.
So in the graphic novel, of course, in the background, Ozymandias is designing a fake alien invasion to unite the
Right.
world's governments during the Cold War amongst a
Right.
common threat. But in the film,
Hmm.
he nukes New York City with the same radiation that Dr. Manhattan emits and frames
Oh.
him for the bombing of New York, which then unites the world's governments as, oh my gosh, like the most powerful being that's ever existed is a threat to humankind now.
Right. So by creating a common enemy, he unites the world as opposed to,
The
Well, I think it's either way,
idea
right?
is the same.
It's both the same.
I think the idea is the same, which is why I wonder why you change it. And I mean, it makes maybe a more concise story by tying all the characters together, but it's self-criticizing the book, and Zack Snyder does draw so much directly from the book. It is weird when there is such a stark difference. Like the ending of the book, when he's ripping panels and dialogue straight from the book, and then you change the ending. I'm like, are you making just an adaptation of it, or is it a take? Like, what are you doing?
Well,
It's also something I find interesting for Zack Snyder, because I was trying to think of a word for why I prefer the ending for the book. And a big one that came up is just that I think it's cooler. And considering Zack Snyder always goes for cooler, I'm really surprised that he didn't just go for...
It's definitely more wild, you know?
Yeah, that's it. I just like that it's just fucking balls to the wall, like... With the bits where he's like got like artists on the island and stuff, it's just so... It's fucking insane.
well,
I
interestingly
remember
enough, I could make
reading-
an argument for the film ending, because even though as much as I do love the Squid Monster, I really like the concept that Ozymandias isn't just getting John off of Earth so that he doesn't interfere, but I like the idea that he gets him off of Earth as part of his whole machination to pit him against the entire planet. Like, it alienates John in a way that when in the film it's revealed that he revealed, air quotes, that he's the one who bombed New York, it gives more sinister nature to all the events that John goes through that have been orchestrated against him, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It works on some levels, definitely. I think it's not without some merit. I just think the alien squid monster is just cooler.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kind
it's really cool.
like Johnny said, it's so cool.
And it's so phallic.
It's so phallic. It's so fucking crazy.
yeah.
Like, considering that the book doesn't go all out, like we said, with like the fights and things like that, for that to just be for that to be the grand plan is just amazing. And I think it needs it for like a comment on sort of superhero comics as a whole. It needs like the grand plan of the guy at the end needs to be like it kind of makes sense, but also it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
And you don't really get that from the the whole nuking thing is like, it kind of just makes sense a little bit.
Yeah, it's like actually kind of like a rational plan.
Yeah,
Like it's still crazy, but it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, whereas
yeah.
in the book, it's like, oh yeah, that is really clever. It's also completely insane. No rational mind would think of that.
Only the world's smartest mind would.
Yeah.
It's so crazy,
Yeah.
it just might work.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna reread the book again now after this. This is what you guys have done. I've already done my reread
should.
for this year, but I'm
Yeah, I
gonna
was
have
actually
to do it
gonna
again.
try and do it before the episode, and then I opened it and I was like, I can't commit to this in a week.
Yeah.
It's not a
I
casual
can't do
book,
that. Yeah.
The other
I
thing
can't.
is, I've read the
Casual
beginning
read.
so much. I've started just like, I mean, I think if I'm gonna do a reread again now. I think I'm gonna have to, but I'm gonna start like in the middle. I think because I'm so familiar with how the book begins.
Yeah, I've definitely. I mean, I like you said, Johnny. I definitely reread it at least once a year.
Yeah.
Not even on like a scheduled thing. It's not like, well, every Christmas we sit down and we read Watchmen.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
but
I get the hankering every year for some reason. It's like
it calls you back.
almost
You're
on
like,
the dot.
yeah, exactly. But to that same point, like I've picked up and read the first like 3 issues of the book and been like, whew, I need a break. I'm exhausted. So many times. Like I've read the first 3 issues of the book, as opposed to the entire book, more times than I can count.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to start in the middle.
Yeah, I tend to do a thing when I reread comics, though, where I kind of like halfway actually read it, but mostly just look at the drawings and
Yeah.
remember the story. And you can definitely do that with Watchmen, but I do feel like it kind of demands like a full read every time you open the book.
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean,
it makes me nervous rereading it because I'm like, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it. You gotta commit to it.
Plus, like at the end of every issue, there's not even a comic. Then they've got like the articles or the bits of books and shit. So it's all those bits are just
Right.
Which I didn't even
damn it,
read
you've
the
just gotta
first time I
read
read
them.
it. When I was a teenager,
me
I was
neither.
like, I'm not gonna read these. I think they're decoration. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I was the same. Yeah, I just didn't read them. I was like, these are like a prologue. These aren't important.
I remember the first time I finished Watchmen was I was in 7th or 8th grade, and we had just finished our like state's standardized test, whatever test we were taking, math, history, whatever it was. And I remember we were allowed to bring like a book to read when we were done, while we waited on everyone else to finish, and you had to be really quiet, and it was just miserable and awful. But one year I was reading Watchmen, and I finished it after I took whatever test that was. And I was sitting there reading like the last couple of chapters of this book, and just I wanted to scream in this quiet classroom. I was in Miss Solomon. You used to teach math at Tennyson Middle School. I know you're watching. She's not. I wanted to scream in your classroom as I was finishing Watchmen for the first time because it was fucking wild, and I had to be quiet, and I hated that. It was a bad decision on my part.
Do any of you have a favorite character?
Comedian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
good.
comedian.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think he's super complex, and he's just like an asshole, but it's like just a fucked up guy, different than like Rorschach's a fucked up guy. Like I've been really drawn to the comedian, which is why I was glad I got to pencil him for this one.
Wow. Yeah, because I was almost going to say your answer is not allowed to be Rorschach because he's obviously the coolest.
Right, he's
so
very
cool,
yeah.
man. He's so edgy. I just relate to him. He's so angsty.
After penciling your piece, Nate, potentially a front runner for my answer might have to be Silk Spectre.
Oh, really?
Well, I was talking to like Nate about it, and it was something something always happens when I end up drawing a character anyway, in that like I suddenly, if it's a character I don't like, I will like them if I draw them. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike Silk Spectre, but I kind of just always nothinged her. And then
Yeah.
I was like drawing her, and I like
Right.
redid her face like 10 times. And I was saying to Mike before, like in my head, I kept just being like, no, she has to look nice. That's the biggest thing. And I realized I really like the character because, like, despite the fact that she gets agency in the end, a lot of bad shit happens to her, and she didn't ask for any of it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she's just nice the whole time. What did she do?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's like
Yeah.
a badly written female character where, you know, she just doesn't have anything.
Not at all.
Like she gets the agency at the end, and it's all planned out. But she's just so
Yeah, Alan Moore did it on purpose.
yeah. But yeah, throughout she doesn't even want to be a superhero to begin with. Even before the book has started,
Mhm.
you like. I was thinking when I was trying to pick bits to illustrate for her. There's like I can't remember where it is, but there's a panel that shows them all like giving up being a superhero. And I just really like there's like a tiny touch that I hadn't seen before where it just shows her putting away her costume, and she's the only one who's like smiling. And it's just stuff like that. I'm like, damn, I like you. I just want you to be happy.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely like her more
Yeah.
after the show. She's very cool.
Yeah.
She's one of the returning characters in the show. I don't think that's a spoiler. I hope it isn't.
She shows up very
Is it played
early
by
on.
the same actress from the movie?
No.
No.
It's this. They recast her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like older. And yeah, that agency Johnny was talking about, she's got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree with you, Johnny. I did the same thing. Like I never really thought about her that much.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I think upon rereads appreciate that yeah, she's kind of a character that has just like had a lot of things happen to her.
Mm.
And I don't think that that's like lack of like developing that character. Like that is a kind of person that exists, like people that are reactionary and that do things that other people want them to do. And like I think that she's a good example in fiction and certainly in comics of that kind of person. And it's crazy because superheroes are always these people that kind of usually decide on their own that they're going to be a superhero for whatever reason. And
Yeah, that's something that's very
you're
interesting
gonna be
about
a
her, I think.
superhero. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she takes on the same mantle as her mom and has to wear like the sexy costume, and you know, like
And she just finds the whole thing disgusting, yeah.
yeah, and it's bananas that she does it. But like yeah, like that's the character is like the you know, my parents wanted me to do this, or my mom wanted me to do this, and so I'm doing it. I hate it.
Well, it's exactly like Johnny was just saying. Like when we were talking about it when we first got on the call, I was saying to you, Johnny, that it's cool that throughout the whole story, like Nate, what you said on first read, I was like, oh, she's such a passive character. Everything just happens to her. And admittedly, like she does get handed around between several characters. So like on my first read, I kind of thought she was a poorly written character, but in reality, kind of what Todd had said of how Alan Moore really planned it out perfectly. She goes through the entire events of her life, having everything dictated to her and everything planned for her. And then at the end of the book, or towards the middle of the book, she leaves John, gets this concept of independence and liberation as who she wants to be and who she wants to be with and all of that. And then at the end of the book, she gets to confront John, who has essentially been the center of her universe for the past 20 years or whatever.
He's God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And in some way, she gets to challenge God and say, like, I'm a human being with free will, and I'm going to exercise that free will. And I hope you do too, John. You know? It's really powerful, and it's way more complex and subtle than I think anybody gives it credit for. Because she's often the character that's looked over. She's the one that's. I mean, like I've seen people do a lot of fan art of Manhattan, Rorschach, Night Owl, comedian even who is a dirtbag.
Yeah. Love the comedian because he's just a fucking dirtbag.
Yeah.
And her mother, or her mother, her father.
Yeah. But she gets left out of the fandom.
Yeah.
I think greatly and
Well, the other thing
undeservedly
is
so.
looking through like references or things to draw or things other people have drawn before I drew her. The other thing is that people like really do the opposite of what they should. In that, from what I've seen, a lot of people who do draw her like super sexy.
Super sexy. Yeah.
Like completely fucked up the whole character.
Missed it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I like about Sally too. The original Silk Spectre, her mom, Sally Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
Like she's just living it up, and so she wants to almost vicariously redo the glory days through her daughter, and like that's a dynamic that I think is sort of easily understandable. And like I kind of like that she's just having a ball in the 40s or 50s or whatever. Like, you know, she loves wearing the sexy costume and you know, fighting crime and being like the girl on the team. Like she loves that stuff. And I think that's valid and very cool as well. And which again, like,
of course,
I think both Silk Spectres kind of get overlooked. Really kind of when even by myself when I'm thinking about Watchmen, and I do enjoy both characters and all of the fucked up relationships that happen within that family unit.
Right.
Very, very fucked up relationships.
Right. Well, that's why I say like it's one of those books that deserves multiple readings, because the first time you read it, you know, you're going to go away. The hierarchy, so to speak, that you're going to be thinking about is probably Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan and the comedian.
Yeah.
But there's such a huge cast of characters and all really interesting. And the Silk Spectre, like you said, is really easy to overlook. What, you know, every character has some kind of a character arc to them, including both the Silk Spectres.
Yeah.
They're pivotal characters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, but there's such flashier characters that, you know, it's hard not to get distracted by those.
Yeah, and it's fun because, you know, they do tie obviously so closely to the comedian, who is like, when you think back on the book, you always remember the comedian, and he's not really a big part of the second half of the book, and he dies immediately when the first thing that happens in the story is he gets murdered.
Yeah, before you even know who he is.
Such a huge part of the book. And I'm like, how often do you know, and again, just to Alan Moore's storytelling,
he looms over.
You get to know a character knowing their fate and get to like them or despise them, probably despise him. Because I don't know if he really gets redeemed. He's a big old piece of shit.
Yeah, I would say he doesn't, right?
But I think that I don't think he does. Not really. He can cry to Moloch, you know, as he's drunk and breaking into the guy's apartment, which is just a really funny scene that they would kind of like be pals almost. It's just like, yeah, I have your address, and I can just your ass whenever. But like, I'm gonna come over and you know, cry about my life to you. But
I'll fuck with you.
Yeah, like it's. And that's one of the like the goofy things about the book that's great too, and sort of a criticism of superheroes. But yeah, that's what, you know. I obviously like I don't like the comedian like as a guy. I think he's just one of the biggest villains. He's, you know, the only bigger villain in the book is Ozymandias, arguably.
Right.
But as a character, he's fascinating, and I love that he is tied in a way to characters that might otherwise be forgettable, except for that big, you know, family reveal, the family tie reveal. There's so many cool B plots in Watchmen.
Yeah.
B, C, D, E, F, G plots in Watchmen. You know, every character is so rich and so fleshed out.
But it's all tied in together.
It is, yeah, and that's it's such a marvel storytelling, you know.
It's all clockwork. No.
And there's all these big flashy characters, but they are all kind of boring. I like Dan. And I
Yeah.
like what's the name of the first Night Owl? I like him too, the old guy.
Hollis?
Yeah, Hollis.
Oh
Hollis
yeah,
Mason,
Hollis, yeah.
great character.
Dan,
They're just like good guys. And they're tied to all these fucked up people in this fucked up world. They're all quote unquote good guys. Yeah, just every character in that book, there's something there. And it's sort of marvelous.
You guys are much better at penciling. I am really like that that was funny trying to do pencils for Michael, because I was like, I'm not a penciler, man. So you know, I think for anybody, if they're gonna ink my work or whatever, there's gonna be a lot of decisions you got to make and some things you got to figure out, and it's much more of a collaboration as opposed to embellishing the lines.
Well, that's actually a great transition, because I would love to touch on that point. Like here, I'll actually no, but legitimately, I'll spotlight mine real quick, and I'm gonna pull out your pencil print that I'm working from here. I almost have the line work done for everything. I just have Archie left to do up top. But from that collaborative nature, it is like you just said, Todd, of this was so bare bones, but it gave me everything I needed to know for the drawing. Like was not.
I'm glad to hear that.
Like structurally, like I knew exactly what everything was, so I didn't have to think at all about like what was happening at any point in the drawing. Like I knew exactly where smoke was like overlapping to the background here. And even the folds in the fabric were absolutely incredibly placed. Like the best part of the whole drawing for me, and this is in your pencils, is the lower part of the trench coat here. The way that the fabric is flapping around, it's incredible, Todd. It's amazing. And the fact that I had the privilege to ink over it was awesome from a learning experience.
That's good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah,
I was kind of worried about what you were gonna think.
No, man, it's incredible. I think
good.
To your comments a minute ago about like you being a penciler and us being superior in that regard, I couldn't disagree with that statement more. I think you as a penciler are so well in tune with the structures in your drawing that
and now we've all penciled or we've all inked over Todd, and I think like
that's true.
I've only ever inked over you guys, but the information, every bit of it, Mike, you're right, is there.
For sure.
It was
that's
good. And I loved inking over everyone here, but like the easiest I had it was with Todd, as far as like that's the drawing, like that is it.
Really?
And I just have to like make that work. And again, I've loved every collaboration on the show, but yeah, as far as like making the least amount of decisions, definitely yours, Todd.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good. I mean, what I want is for you guys to enjoy it and not be miserable. So like, you know what I mean? Like, I want you to not be grinding over it. I want you to be like, oh, this is fun. It's just comics, man. So that's good. I'm surprised, actually. I'm really surprised to hear that.
Well, here, Todd, I can see you're working on your Dr. Manhattan right now. So I'd love to hop around and check out how that's going.
I'm so excited to see that.
Let's see this.
Well, I haven't gotten too far yet. But I'm so, yeah. I don't know how hard that is to see, but so basically, the comedian isn't, let's see, I'll put hang on. So basically, I decided to do the comedian is covering up Dr. Manhattan. Whoa. And I decided to do a full length Dr. Manhattan because I want to overlap them more, maybe, or something. Just
very
because,
cool.
just to show a little bit more depth. But also, I'm thinking about what I want to do for the background, because there was a lot of interpretation there, and
Yeah.
I think
I
that,
drew vaguely some explosions.
explosions in Vietnam
I just
are
wrote
definitely good.
explosions and chaos.
Oh, I'm all for it.
I was like, Todd will
Right.
figure it
as
out.
well you should, because yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking about putting a map of Vietnam in the background and just to indicate that that's what they're doing and that's what they're there, and
That's very cool.
that would be one of those really easy graphic things. But another reason why I gave myself this stock image of Dr. Manhattan is I was going to actually duplicate it and have this sort of pulsing silhouette of Dr. Manhattan coming out in the background. Like, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to put in the smoke and the fire and the napalm and everything else.
God, I'm so excited.
And then I'll show you. So the comedian is pink, and
good.
So it's yeah. That I will say this: if you that looks like a Dr. Manhattan that tastes like a battery. Isn't that what's her face kissed him, and then she's like, tastes like a battery.
Oh man, that's so fucking cool.
Well, I was gonna say, Todd, this is absolutely wacky and crazy, and I think out of all of the possibilities of the characters that we had set up to potentially draw, I know I speak for everybody when you had to have Dr. Manhattan.
You had to
no
question.
Pretty
You had to
excited
have
to hear that I got him. Yeah,
and under Nate's penciling, which was absolutely incredible on this one. I think this is like another match in heaven, like collaboratively between you two.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how this one turns out in finality. But speaking of Nate, Nate, how did your inks turn out over Johnny's pencils?
I really just got the figures done. I wonder if I can get this a little closer. I'm going handheld actually because I'm still trying to figure out the setup here in the new place. That's not working. Yeah, I really just got the figures done. I want to do a little fleshing out on the buildings. It's pretty... Johnny left me like a lot of space, which I really appreciate because I do get really nervous doing architecture, but I do enjoy it when it's working. I'm putting this back. This isn't working.
Okay, I'm interested to hear that you get nervous doing it because I did message you when I sent you the picture. I was just like, you always just kill it with background, so I just wanted to be like, maybe there's a building here, maybe there's a building here. The chimney, I was like, the chimney is in the book. I think that they start getting off at each other against that chimney. So I was like, that bit's there.
I broke the book out and I was looking at some of the buildings in the book. And which, like, as soon as I found that page, I could tell you had also looked at it. Because, like, this brick wall next to them, like, that's just, this is where they're at in the book, which is great. I'll just look it up. This is the scene that, that we're doing. And this is the scene that I drew for Todd.
Look at that. We're next to each other.
But, I'm really excited. I love the layout here. And again, I love that you like these windows back here. Like you just left that open. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I wish that you had done the work for me. No, I'm kidding. I do have a good time with architecture, even though it does stress me out quite a bit. In a good way.
I did to try and help you out a little bit. I did do my usual thing of like chickening out of drawing too much architecture by being like, well, there's smoke everywhere. In rooftops, I guess.
Oh my god, that's my favorite part, is that I'm going to obscure so much of the background with the smoke. Because I love breaking up shapes. Like the smoke is obviously like it's just going to be white shapes, like no outlines, no shading, no nothing. Like it's just going to break up the forms. And I know that that's probably what you meant. And I got really, really excited about that aspect. In particular, when you sent me these, I was like, oh, he knows what I want. And I love him so much. Oh my god. Yeah,
like
this has been
Manhattan.
super fun.
Johnny knows exactly what you want. And he's fair to you. He will treat you
right. He drew me white smoke breaking up architecture and something pretty spicy. So he does know exactly what I want.
I know what you want. Yeah.
You know.
I do like how like it's technically two people just sitting there, but
Right.
if you look at it a little bit, like the way her arm is leaning, it's like
Mhm.
between his legs. It's
Oh,
like
she's
she's
Oh,
reaching
yeah.
in there.
The
She's-
next drawing after this is very X-rated drawing. We're
Yeah.
not drawing them in the show.
So tune into
but,
the Ink Drink Think OnlyFans to catch that.
but yeah, no, it is very sweet. Like I like what you said about trying to make Silk Spectre look nice, and she does just look like a genuinely good person that is interested in this guy who is a good guy. He's
Mm.
distant, which I
Yeah.
like.
Sure.
He is talking about
Yeah.
whatever, and she's just like,
And
oh my god, it's
however you feel about him, like right now, he's a good guy. I think.
yeah,
Because he
I
gets
think
more
in
and
this
more
moment,
disconnected.
yeah, in this moment, he's a good guy.
Still a good guy. Yeah.
Cheating
And
on
this
his
is
wife.
that moment that, you know, some of us may have had before where like you're nerding out about comics or whatever, and the girl you're with is like, oh my god, it's so cute when you talk about, you know, whatever you're
Yeah.
into. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what's happening here is he's
I'm glad
talking
you
about
picked up
like
on that. Yeah. I
space
wanted
and
him to just sort of
time.
be looking off in the
and
distance.
He's just like, yeah, I don't really connect with people anymore. Every day it's getting worse. And she's like, oh my god, it's so cute when you talk about being a god.
Yeah.
I think you need to put in those word
Yeah,
bubbles, like right
right.
above his left shoulder. It needs to say like, "Let me explain to you the complexities of Alan Moore's writing process."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, that's so adorable.
Yeah.
That's-
I'm
that
glad
is
you-
what's
I'm glad you
happening.
picked up on
Yeah,
that. So
that's what's
her
happening.
look is the look of like, I'm not listening to this guy, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck him.
But it is so cute that he's into something. That is what this is.
it's
And
very
she-
Paul
and she's
Pope.
she's about to reach for the real estate.
Yeah, she is.
Nate, you're inking on this one. Believe it or not, I feel like the combination. It's almost like when you're like adding flavors. You know, Johnny pencils plus Nate inking equals Paul Pope.
Oh my
really?
god.
Do you guys
a
see
little
that?
bit.
Do you guys see the Paul
Yeah.
Pope influence in like the
Oh, a
shapes and
little
everything?
bit.
The
You
negative
can see
space.
the Pope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was something
Just a
interesting
thought.
happening with this drawing where, and it happened with Todd's pencils as well, where I was like, I gotta treat these lines with respect, which I don't do when I pencil something. And Mike, love you to death, didn't do when you penciled that Kid Fisto because you and I pencil in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
And like the lines were so, like they were just exactly where they needed to be, and so I was really nervous doing some of the outlines on the figure. And there's some wobbly lines because I was like, oh no, I'm messing it up. And yeah, I really tried to kind of clean it up, and then I got over myself with some of the interior shading and did what I normally do because I was like, that's what I'm here to do. But
Yeah.
some of the lines, I was like, "Oh my god, it's got to be the best. That's got to be the best line I've ever done."
Oh, man.
Which it didn't happen. But yeah, this was a challenge. I think this was a real challenge.
Oh
as
wow,
far
it's
as, like,
weird you
just
saying
trying
that,
to
'cause
control what was happening.
I was almost going to message you and be like, "There's a lot of things I'm not happy about with the figures," so I was almost going to message you and be like, "Fix the figures as well while you're at it. If you spot stuff that you don't like, just fix it."
No,
But I'm
and
glad
it's gonna be a really weird thing to say. I love these feet.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, those are great.
Feet are like I like drawing bare feet when the opportunity arises, not just when I'm bored. But these are really good feet, and I think they look like feet. And yeah,
that's very nice of you.
I'm
because
going to stop talking about feet now.
that was going to be the biggest thing. I was going to say was like
No,
the figure. I'm
keep
like,
going.
I'm okay with the figures. I was almost going to message you and be like, I don't like drawing feet. So if the feet are bad, fix the feet, because especially
these-
bare feet, just
These
dangling.
are way better bare feet than I would have drawn. Is what I was trying to get at.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I normally just kind of like draw the toes as a thing, and then
Yeah,
just draw
right.
lines for the toes. These toes have life, to continue down this spiral.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I decided I didn't reference them, but I did look down at my own feet. I don't know if it helped me very much. But,
Drawing Johnny's feet. Very good.
yeah, you're drawing my feet
That's our next
from like a
collaboration,
different
guys.
angle.
Yeah.
Sort of looking at my feet, just
feet
saying
pics.
aloud, how do feet work?
Going back to the Ink Drink Think Only fans, next episode we're just drawing each other's feet.
All feet, man. Well, hey,
I
like I
also
said,
was going to say.
oh no,
Oh,
Johnny,
sorry,
go
man.
for it.
Oh, I was just going to say a quick thing. I'm glad that you just mostly blacked out the like weird leotard thing he's wearing. I mostly when I gave that to you, I gave it like part shaded, like with lower.
Yeah.
That was partially just to show off that I was happy with the anatomy of his chest.
Oh,
and
it looks
torso.
so good. And there were
Just
some
threw that,
things
it was
that
kinda
I
like-
definitely blacked out that I was like, oh shit.
I was like,
but I
I was
also-
like, this is supposed to be black, but
Yeah,
I like
drew,
it, so I wanted to brag to you.
yeah, I loved it, and I tried to like, especially like in the abdominal muscles and everything, try and keep what you laid out.
Yeah,
but
nice.
I was like, if Johnny inked this, it would be dark and there would be wrinkles where he's kind of
It would be
like
black.
slouched over. And
Yeah,
so
I was just
I
trying to
gotta,
show
I
off
gotta
to you.
do that. But yeah, oh my god, it's such a good drawing. Before I got here, it was such a good drawing.
No, I'm looking at the wrinkles and it looks very good. I like it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, yeah, like
Yeah,
I was
can't
saying,
wait to see it
this
finished.
this combination is very Paul Popian. So I can't wait to see this one in its finality. Like
Oh,
just
yeah,
from the
me too.
figures
So
alone
excited
and the
to
litter
finish.
you have done in the
Yeah.
background, like
That's awesome.
spot on, guys. Absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. But to round out the quartet, it's usually me, and technically it's part me because Johnny, you inked over my work. But Johnny,
I did.
how did it turn out?
Right. So these are your pencils. I'm like looming over the iPhone now. And then I inked over it, and I was really feeling. I love the way you pencil. But we were saying to each other before this that the way we work is very different. And I'm like super like obsessively, to a fault, I think, like obsessively clean, and your work is so like expressive, and there's a lot more movement there, I think, and it's just like it's very gestural. So I was wondering how I was going to find an in-between of that, and I had a lot of fun just kind of using the kind of way I ink, but kind of loosening it up a little bit. So I got this far. I did the main two. I did Rorschach and Ozymandias. I got them finished, and I just went like with all your gestures of like the clothes and stuff. I kind of did my usual thing, but went a little bit looser with it and went a little bit more out there.
Dude, I love this.
Man, yeah,
This is
looking so good.
amazing. Holy crap.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of really rich relationship between like the black and white shapes and the feathering and everything in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking really good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was another one where like it's all there for you, and there's just a lot of parts where like Mike would normally hatch it out, and because I normally do the feathering, it's kind of like a weird translation between the two, but it's still all absolutely there. And so I just kind of it was I was a little nervous about it beforehand because I was like, how am I going to meld the two in a way that works? But when I started doing it, I helped that I was a little bit drunk anyway, so I just kind of went with what I was feeling at the time.
Very good.
And
Very
it
good.
just started working. As soon as I started, I was like, kept like getting rid of the pencils, like, you know, making it so you can't see the pencils and looking at just the inks and being like, yeah, that reads as both of us, I think. I don't know how you guys
definitely.
feel.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That looks like a marriage of the two you guys work for sure.
Yeah, that was the main thing I wanted. I wanted to find somewhere between mine and Mike's.
It's very weird seeing my because I could grab the original like right off the screen, and it's very weird to see like I'm personally glad I didn't attempt to ink this one because I know I will not be able to shake yours out of my head while doing it because you're rocking it so perfectly right now.
Yeah.
But like knowing like how the pencils are laid out and like seeing your version of it, like the crispness in your line work as opposed to like the sporadic, erratic nature of what I do.
Nonsensical.
Nonsensical. You said expressive. I would call it illegible. But yeah, no, Johnny,
No.
It's wild seeing this because it's so alien to what I normally do that
Yeah.
it's like kind of like jarring, but in like a extremely positive way. It's amazing.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, he did the same thing with my pencils on that X-Men collaboration we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, oh, well, shit. Oh, man. Because I was,
Well,
dude, I was
very
gonna
high
ink. I was gonna ink that Storm piece, and I was like, can't do it. Not gonna do it now.
Yeah.
Not gonna do it now.
You guys are too kind.
Nope.
One of the things I did find, Mike, I really like about your work, having never tried to ink it before, but I've always liked anyway, is how, like, with these gestural, sketchy moves, you make like that. I really enjoy drawing the faces. I really like drawing Rorschach because I always like drawing Rorschach. But then when I got to the faces, I hadn't predicted how much I was going to enjoy just translating them to, like,
Oh, yeah.
from the pencils, because it's all there, and then you just kind of, for me, just
Ozymandias looks fantastic.
yeah. I also really like how mullety you made him.
Yeah.
Just with a few gesturally things, you were like, because did you look at the like sketches, like the pre-Watchmen sketches that he did?
No. So actually, Ozymandias, I intentionally drew like your drawings, in the face at least.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
the structure of his head is very like. I mean, it's something I would draw, but like the squareness of his jaw and his head is something I feel like you do fairly often.
Yeah,
and the
it fit
cheekbone
very well.
structure. Yeah, and so I like intentionally drew his face
that's
to be
good.
akin to how you draw. But the mullet thing came from me just thinking like I have the book right here, and I was looking at the book for reference of his costume, and I was like, what's with the crew cut? What is with this like Oxford boy haircut? Like he does have like long hair on the sides and the back in the book, but like it's not flowing. Like he doesn't look like Alexander the Great. Like he needs the flow, the surfer boy,
Yeah.
like the Johnny '90s heartthrob, like cloth kind of look. He needed that, and you captured
God,
it
that's
perfectly.
good. Fuck, that's good.
Well, it's interesting because it was. I think I was like rereading it and looking through like sketches, like pre the actual like making of Watchmen, and he does have a mullet in a lot of the before sketches, like before he's put to like before he's finished. Ozymandias had a mullet for like most of them, so I was wondering whether you'd pulled it from that.
No, I thought it would be a fun element.
Yeah, I really like it.
He
I'm a big
looks
fan.
he looks like I mean like his whole thing is being like Alexander the Great, like golden and like the number
Yeah,
one
exactly,
guy.
yeah.
And like I feel like somebody with that attitude wouldn't have like a. I mean, it makes sense in the point of the book where we meet him, where he's like, "I'm a esteemed businessman now. Like I don't have the time to frolic in tights." That he would have a shorter haircut, but like when he's an adventurer, he has to have flow, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Damn, Johnny, you killed this one. I can't.
Dude,
I'll
it
have-
is so good.
Man.
You're zoomed in right now on the hair, and it really, really makes me want to use pens more. And I always
man.
use brushes for hair, and I'm like, fuck, that's good. I have to steal,
I always
have to
like going, like,
steal
really-
that. I have to steal it.
What's
I just
funny?
like going really in on hair, just like draw all the lines.
What's funny is like with the collaborations, and now we've finally gone full circle. Like we've all done each other's art at this point.
Everyone's done everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to put it that way. But
I do.
What's interesting is
It's not
like
what you said. It's how you said it.
yeah. The only one that I inked was the first one, which was the X-Men collaboration. I inked over my pencils on that one prior to us recording. So I handed off the pencils to Todd, and then I inked it on my own. But I don't think, like, because I don't have the time right now to do that, but, like, whenever I see you guys work over my pencils, I'm like, I can't do it again. Like, after seeing Kit Fisto from Nate, I was like, I could not dare to touch it. And now after, and of course I felt that way with Todd's too, but I'd done the inking prior to him touching it.
You'd already desecrated it.
Yeah. but with Johnny's here, like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I made the right decision to not start the inks on that because I can't parallel or even come close to the quality here. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, these collaborations.
I feel the same way with Nate's, and I was like, it's funny because were you the same where I was going to, like, when I first started penciling it, or when I finished penciling it, before I sent it to Nate, I was like, I think I'm also going to ink that because I like that piece. I like Silk Spectre's pose, and I like a lot of things about it.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And then now that I've seen Nate's, I'm like, no, I'm not. There's no point.
Sucks that it's untouchable now. So you can't do it, but
it is literally just like there's no point. I'm just like,
no, yeah, I have not inked one of these collaborations, but I have had the thought every single time when I'm penciling it. Obviously, I'm like, God, I'm gonna ink this. But like even like yesterday or whatever, when I was doing the Comedian and Dr. Manhattan piece, I was like, yep, I'll ink this, and I'm even just looking at Todd right now, and I'm like, nah, I gotta fucking do it. Right. I'll post the pencils and I'll be like, hey, look at this thing. Swipe over to see a wizard literally do magic on it.
An actual Jedi.
Yeah. I'm not gonna finish the drawing because a wizard did. And it's magical now and I'm not gonna touch it.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in because you just witnessed one of the most magical things that we do here at Ink Drink Think, which is the collaboration episodes. So with that said, guys, we're going to wrap up there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you check out the description below where you can find the links to all 4 of our Instagram pages where you can check out all of our artistic endeavors and the official Ink Drink Think Instagram page where you can catch all 4 of these finished drawings and the original pencils, as well as all of the art pieces from every previous episode of Ink Drink Think. Spotlight that. Also check out all the previous episodes of Ink Drink Think. They have a little bit of a low viewership at the moment, so please be sure to check it out if you enjoyed this one. The other episodes are just as fun. Maybe not all of them. They're really
good.
But some of them are really good.
Really
some of them are a waste of 3 hours, but the other ones are really good. Johnny knows.
Some of them are a waste of half your day.
Johnny has watched 2 of them, so he can attest to this.
Yeah, I can attest.
But of course, guys, go to the comments below. Tell us which of the Watchmen is your favorite from the original graphic novel. And of course, guys, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm kidding. This has been Michael Pickard.
Smash that like.
Joined by, smash that like button. This has been Michael Pickard, joined by my wonderfully talented co-hosts and friends, Johnny Wise, Nate Wells, and Todd Blackwood. Make sure you guys tune in for episode 17. I have no idea what we're going to be drawing.